Hello and welcome. This is episode 88 of On the Time Lash, coming to you on audio, and also we're zooming this. Mark and I, we're zooming this so you can watch this on our YouTube channel as well, along with all the other one or two things that we've already got up there.
About 6 years ago, whatever it was that we last put something up.
And so, for the first time, people can, aside from the odd picture of us on Twitter and Facebook, people can see what we look like. And Mark, my good mate Mark,
well, I know,
stepped up to the occasion.
I've decided to cosplay as Clara Oswald from Time Heist because I bought a similar jacket before Time Heist, I should say. But because I put on quite a bit of weight in lockdown, it looks like I'm actually just wearing a jacket that's designed for Jenna Coleman, and it's kind of just kind of tightly fitting on my own body. It's
like there was some auction, and you
I was like,
for the costume.
I'm having that, and I'm going to wear it every day.
Oh, that's nice. You're doing yourself down. You got the vibe of somebody who's just come in at 6 a.m. from the casino, and boy, did you clean up. So here we are. It's on the Time Lash.
And you can see what I'm drinking as well, which is a nondescript silver can.
Wow, what that is. Appropriately space age. That's, we should also see what we can see. I mean, so I've just gone for a virtual background.
Yes.
This is the 80s TARDIS.
It's very nice.
Which you can get from the BBC.
I don't think I ever noticed before that they've got kind of like bamboo coffee tables in the 1980s TARDIS. But or stools or whatever they are.
So there's a wealth of these that have been put out by the BBC. Like photographs of the set empty. So there's the office of Professor Bernard Quatermass.
Nice.
There is some space age laboratories from A for Andromeda. There's they're not great. This is a great clear image. There are some that are not so good of the wood panelled TARDIS control room. If you fancy that, so there's a whole wealth of them.
Yeah.
For you to download and get into trouble with your boss for being for a lack of professionality using this Zoom background. But yours, Mark, everyone, look at you, look at me, Mr. Conscientious with his Doctor Who, the collection Blu-rays.
So this is the back wall of my living room where I store all my Doctor Who, my classic film and television and books and Doctor Who tat on the top shelves and signed DVDs and all that kind of thing. So yes, this is where I do most of my work, is in this little corner. My sort of home office / dining table that's very rarely used for eating. And mostly used for this podcast, to be honest. This is usually where, I don't know if you can pick this up on the microphone, but there was also an absolute fucking hoolie blowing outside. So at some point, I do worry that my windows are going to just pan in. So if I run away, that's what's happened.
Okay, that's
quite a serious storm.
That is an extra for our first visual recording.
Because I live on the seafront, so obviously we're just getting completely just hammered currently.
Sure. As will we in this recording.
Yes. There'll be a lovely sort of atmospheric, if you're listening at home, just a really lovely atmospheric sound as if it's like a Doctor Who podcast taking place inside a Daphne du Maurier novel. That's
I'd watch that.
Yeah, it should be good.
So talking of so you've already started, so I guess I'm going to crack into it as well. And
mine's not themed, unfortunately. But...
so after all the woes that I regularly report about not being able to spend any time choosing the off-license area, found a spa which not a lot of people were in, so I could take my sweet time about choosing what I wanted. Now, criminality, that's what this podcast's episode is about. We've reached in our new Who Watch through Time Heist, and we've paired it because of hooks and crooks and con men. We paired it with the Ribos Operation. So generally, during I will be having some Most Wanted.
Very nice.
It's a white wine. You can kind of, it's phasing in and out of reality as it floats through the time.
It's because an earlier bottle of modern, what was it called again? Sorry, Most Wanted.
Most Wanted.
Yeah, an earlier bottle of it has been smashed somewhere in the space-time continuum, and This one's got a twinge of existential angst.
Very soon I'll be smashed in the time continuum, mate. That's what I'm aiming for.
I've just got some beers from my local pub again. I think I did the last record. But this one's called Oli Cana, named after, like, I think one of the hops that they use to brew the beer. And I thought, well, you know, if nothing else, it sounds like a weird jewel that might be flogged off by Garen in the Ribos Operation. So that'll do.
That'll do. I've got something else for Ribos Operation as well.
Right.
I'm making a night of it. But shall we just do it? Shall we get straight on to it? Shall we get
go for it.
Stats. Okay, so Time Heist was written by Steve Thompson and Stephen Moffat and directed by Douglas McKinnon. Second consecutive episode for him. He was directed last week's Listen.
Mm-hmm.
It was broadcast on Saturday, the 20th of November, 2014 at 7:30. And it was watched on the night by 4.93 million, growing to a consolidated 6.99 million. And on the day, it was the second most watched program behind X Factor. So those are the stats. This will be interesting visually because we're going to play the game of
Who's doing it?
Deggsy's Where Did It Come game.
Yeah.
Usually on the podcast they have a little bit of editing magic where Deggsy's telephone voice is placed in. We're not going to have that, but you know what we're doing. You know what we're about to do. So it's you and I, Mark, up against the ethereal Deggsy. And remind me again, what is the poll?
So Derek is using the dynamic rankings poll, which was a sort of poll on a website, and that was based on sort of 10,000 votes. So sort of 10,000 Doctor Who fans can't possibly be wrong. So that.
But they make a good fist of trying. That's.
So we now have to decide where Time Heist comes in this poll. Sort of 289. Okay.
So shall I go first? So what would my guess be? I think it's middle, upper middle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say 175.
175.
Yes.
I don't remember this being particularly well loved. I have to say it took me a very long time to sum up the strength to watch this. And on watching it, I'm not entirely sure why, because it's broadly fine. But I just had this kind of like, I can't be arsed. You know what I mean? Just that kind of feeling. And I don't know if that's just because Steve Thompson has a certain reputation when it comes to Doctor Who stories. So I'll go, what did you say, 175?
175 for me.
I'll go a bit lower. I'll go 182.
Okay.
All right.
So, golden envelope time.
It's golden envelope time. I also kind of want to, it'd be great if we could, like in Shooting Stars, just coax Derek Anderson down from the ceiling, with the answer, but that's not going to...
The Derek from above.
Can't do that in lockdown. So Derek says, oh, that's interesting. So Derek says, all right, lads, in the dynamic rankings poll, Time Heist is at number 144, which is slap bang in the middle. So it must be 288.
Sure.
89. Which it's got a score of 6.62 out of 10, and comes betwixt. Good use of the word betwixt there. Modern Undead at 143 and Cold War at 145. I fancy having a Twix now. Well, so as Derek goes off to become betwixt, that's an interest. That's higher than I was expecting.
Yes, okay.
But then I suppose, middle of the road Doctor Who, middle of the road result.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, let's have some listener correspondence. If for no other reason than to distract, so when we do this on Skype, I have used the dominant screen because I want to feel like I'm actually talking to you, and I'm just a little thing in the corner. Now that we're kind of on Zoom, we're doing this on Zoom, we're side by side. I'm there, and I'm now incredibly aware of how many times I'm lifting this glass to my face.
Do you want me to lift it some more?
Yeah, you look like you got a good pace. You like you know, but I look like fucking.
Oh, I'm not going to bother sharing the screen because it's too much hassle.
Yeah, let's not do anything technical.
Next episode, I'll be a bit more prepared.
Yeah,
I'll do a PowerPoint presentation and everything.
That'd be great.
Look forward to that. But
yeah, so this is what listeners have said about Time Heist.
Yes, so listener correspondence on Time Heist. You feel the pressure when, I mean, I know we're going to just cut anything like this out. But you do really feel the pressure when you're like, I mean, I know you can always see me do this.
Yeah.
But I feel like, you know,
the weird
I'm
thing,
on display.
So you're feeling self-conscious about how we normally go about and do this. There are whole podcasts that this subpar shit is what they put behind paywalls on their Patreon. This is like we're giving people an insight into what I mean. I'm not fucking act. I mean, okay, so in the interest, I'm not actually in the TARDIS. Of course, we're not. What does my background look like? Let me show you. It's just a lot of green post-it notes that I've put up onto the wall.
I love that though. That's great.
Create my own green screen, and that's what I do. There we are, back in the TARDIS. But this is us. This is what it usually is like us recording the podcast. And it works fine. But we suddenly feel like we're now self-conscious when fucking...
I think part of me is like...
Joe Rogan, this is what this is... Or I'll tell you what, there's Doctor Who unrelated, but the Robert Duncan McNeil and Garrett Wong from Star Trek Voyager have started a podcast about members of the cast of Star Trek Voyager watching Star Trek Voyager. They release it as a podcast, but if you want extra content, it's the two of them on Zoom with the same standardized space background that you can get. And people are paying for it.
Oh, who wants to spend more time with Tom Paris and Harry Kim?
Actually, I've listened to the first couple of episodes. It's really good.
Is it? Okay.
If you like Star Trek, and actually you've recently done the watch.
I have recently done the whole thing,
I think you might get a kick out of, because it's from the point of view of two guys walking you through their perspective of TV production. And so Garrett Wong's anecdote about meeting the Star Trek Voyager casting woman is she's exactly like, do you remember what's her name, the woman who was Joey's agent in Friends? She's like that fag hanging out her mouth. It's like that. It's a great listen, actually. So
all right, okay,
sorry, one of my post-its fell down. I'm going to try and put it back up. How unprofessional. Welcome to Patreon. Let me see if I can
it's a nightmare because we've got to edit the audio and then edit the visual, and there'll be different concerns for each one.
I'll do the video if you want. So anyway, back. Sorry, listener correspondence.
Jeff Waddle says, even the appearance of Keely Hawes and Absalom Dak can't save this one. Time Heist is an anagram of shite time.
I read that and I was deeply impressed. I say deeply impressed. I got a laugh. I don't want to belay my fucking base level of humor. Which is
I do like a good anagram that just happens to describe what you're watching.
I don't know, in a series that goes out of its way to, if there's an appearance of the Master, come up with some name or some anagram for either the actor. I think they're probably sitting there going, should we do Time Heist? You mean shite time? Yeah, fuck it, whatever. It's in the middle. That's why it's the middle of the season.
Mid-season, it's fine. J.R. Southall says, I wasn't really expecting a lot from Time Heist, but actually when it was broadcast, I found myself really enjoying it. I thought the chemistry between the guests and the regulars was entertaining, and the Moffat-like time paradox storyline was an enjoyable and digestible version of the kind of thing you'd usually get in much more complicated fashion in a series finale. And then you've got the plot, which kind of sealed the deal for me, insofar as I think Time Heist becomes a sort of capsule version of a year-long plot or an entire series worth of story boiled down into a fun 45 minutes, as it were. Because it looks for all the world that the story's going one way in a rather uncomfortable direction, and then it suddenly flips itself back to what you'd expect. So this is about the Doctor deciding to become a villain for a day, until the twist at the story's end is that the reason he's doing it is out of benevolence for a misunderstood alien. And isn't that what Series 8, and isn't that precisely what Series 8 boils down to in a nutshell? Interesting. I don't know if it's as deep as that, but I do get, there's definitely kind of series themes are being dealt with, plastered all over this. But we'll come to that in a bit. Over on Twitter, here we go. Right. So Rasslon's Trousers. I've always quite enjoyed Time Heist. As a standalone story, it's fine. Its main failing is that it recycles some common themes and characters of modern Doctor Who, including some from the previous story, but without as much success. But as a 45-minute action story, it does its job perfectly well. Baby Whovian, which is an adorable picture of a small child wearing what looks like Tom Baker's hat. And I'm not entirely sure if the baby himself has written this tweet.
Okay.
Because he's a very eloquent baby, if that is the case.
Okay.
I imagine it's the father.
Okay. Because the amount of swearing that we do, I thought this probably is not suitable for us.
But this is kind of a general point about the episode. Our episode. A fantastic choice of double bill, as well as the obvious hustle-like aspects. Both stories have underdog characters, a non-monstrous monster, and really reward repeat viewings. Both are highly underrated stories from underrated seasons. So thank you to Baby Whovian and your dad.
Is that Dylan, also the first? I think that's the first time.
And first time, yeah.
That I recognise the name Baby Whovian.
Indeed.
So welcome.
Thanks for joining us.
Hope it's not your bedtime. I don't know. How do you speak to children? I don't.
Dylan Reese, who I must point out at this stage, has an excellent Doctor Who podcast, which I've started listening to this week.
Oh, has he? Well, so I saw the back and forth that Dylan was on. Was it our Sarah Jane?
He was a runner on. He usually works as a producer, he was saying, but yeah, he got offered the chance to be a runner on the incredibly moving Sarah Jane tribute, and was kind of like, well, kind of can't turn that down. So yeah, so he did a day on that. Sure. But he's does a podcast with his brother called Doctor Who Too Hot for TV, and it's a podcast that deals with all the other stuff. So like your Big Finish, your Unbound, your New Adventures, your BBV stuff.
Sure.
So they pick a couple of those every week. Well, every month I think they're doing it. And sort of talk about. So like the first two episodes, they did the David Collins Unbound audio, Full Fathom 5.
Oh, so it's not just like what merch is out now. It's like
no, it's literally just, it's kind of wilderness years stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd be into that.
It's really good. There's some really good stuff and stuff that I've no kind of like a broad knowledge of. Like in the first episode they do one of the BBV audios called Republica by Mark Gatiss with Sylvester McCoy as the professor and Sophie Aldred as Ace. So it's all from that time of kind of copyright skirting. Sure. Yeah, so it's a good podcast, really funny. So I'd recommend that. And they put me on to, which I then in turn put you on to then, the Eric Roberts Mythmakers interview.
Oh man. I mean, well, you're saying like you put me on to Eric Roberts, but on Amazon Prime, all of the Mythmakers, pretty much. So you know the way that they release them, because I've done a couple of reviews.
I've reviewed a couple of the collections. Yeah,
and they're all on Prime. And so you told me to go and have a look at Eric Roberts.
Yeah,
as one. So crazy. So
I don't want to say too much, but I do, because basically they sold it to me on the podcast by saying they kind of enjoyed it in a way similar to the Bros documentary from 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
Which is an extraordinary piece of sort of music documentary and also comedy. Yeah. So they kind of, and so I was like, well, I'm definitely watching that after I've drank a bottle of wine of an evening. Yeah. Which I did on Thursday night. And it's Eric Roberts. I think you put it quite well, which was it's sort of like that huffy interview that Jerry Lewis did, but he's being interviewed by his own wife.
Yeah, his own wife. So presumably the way into that was she was also in Doctor Who, so why not have the two of them? Whatever makes him comfortable.
Yeah.
But he just looks like so you put it a different way, which is that maybe the guy has had some substance abuse issues, and that's the
He has a very there's some odd moments in it where he does seem to be operating on a kind of different level of reality.
Yeah.
But the most beguiling element of it is that Eric Roberts' wife is framed in front of a peeling, cracking wall in their living room.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's
there's various points where you're kind of just staring directly into those peeling paint.
Yeah.
And just seeing it's like looking at the untempered schism.
Oh yeah, but tempered by budget.
Yeah.
But she's desperate. It's like that Jerry Lewis interview. She's got questions enough for 2 hours.
Yeah, and there is a longer version. Dylan says there's like a 90-minute version.
What's in that half an hour that wasn't already there? Because there was fuck all in the hour that was there. Like I said it to you. It's like I didn't know about the, maybe the choice lifestyle. I thought it looked like they'd had an argument about 10 minutes before they were on camera. Like they'd had an argument in the car park of an IKEA before they conducted this interview.
Yeah.
And that was very much the vibe of the thing. But, we urge people to go and look at those. I had a look at some of the other stuff that was...
Should we come back to this... Or should we come back to the Mary Tamm one later on?
Yes, okay. So we'll
do it with it because
prep for the Rebos operation.
Bloody hell!
I had a look
There's some
at
weird stuff in that as well.
Tamm mythmakers, and that's
so yes.
If you thought the Eric Roberts one, well, that's the tip of the iceberg. Like that is the crack that's nudging its way through the plasterwork compared to the whole. Anyway, sorry. Yes.
No, that's fine. More mythmakers in a bit.
So basically, if you're watching this, that is the bonus material. It's us having a chat about and plugging somebody else's Doctor Who podcast via the medium of their listener correspondence. Yeah,
that's what we're doing, wasn't it? Listener correspondence, rather than just having a lovely chat about what Doctor Who podcasts and additional material we've been watching this week. So Dylan says, when Time Heist was first broadcast, I remember thinking it was a bit meh, but on rewatch, I was actually surprised how fresh and fast-paced it feels. The tellers are brilliant design, the plot's fairly tight. It's just a shame that we get another monster romance plot. And finally, Deborah says, Time Heist was the first disappointment in Series 8 for me. The idea itself is interesting, as is the character stuff, but it feels like they didn't have the budget to fully realise a big futuristic space bank. There's not enough tension or momentum, so I always end up distracted. Yeah, I think I'm on the kind of Deborah scale, the Deborah and Jeff scale, rather than the Dylan and JR Rasslon's Trouser scale. I was quite underwhelmed by this.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm just hanging out in the console room with my great mates Dylan and JR. So
fair enough. That's good company, to be fair.
I'm at the other end of the scale, which is odd because usually I'm on Jeff's end of thinking, and I've snuck ahead and seen what he said about the Ribos Operation, and 100% am with that guy.
Sure.
But so okay, I coming up to this was pretty keen to watch it again because I remember really enjoying it. I mean, let's not go overboard. I didn't have a big foam hand that said Time Heist #1. Like, I liked it for what it was, I remember at the time. And you said you had to summon the
well, I'm maybe exaggerating a little bit, but
no, but I know what you mean. Like, we're in lockdown, so let's not climb any fucking emotional or mental hills.
Yeah, I think it was literally just.
But I know what you mean about having to sit down and at some point just go.
It's just that thing. Is like, I've got the season 14 box set.
Yeah.
I've watched. Yeah, I'm one of them.
We can see it up the back there. We can.
You can actually. It's hang on. Yeah, there we go. But
But what we're
Yeah,
all wondering, what we're all
so it's
wondering
like, part of me is like,
is-
well, I've got better uses of 45 minutes if I want to watch some Doctor. And also, there's all the myth makers on Prime.
yeah,
Like, you know, so I think it was a bit to kind of revisit a Peter Capaldi episode that I wasn't that enamored with the first time round. I think that it was more that it's just that even though you're in, I'm sure you've found this as well. I'm sure listeners have, is that if you're in lockdown and you're furloughed and you don't have much to do, you think, great, I'm going to get so much done.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch things, I'm going to read things, I'm going to write things, and then the next thing you know, it's like 5 o'clock, your girlfriend's on the way home from work and you should really start getting the dinner on. And you're like, well, where's the day gone? Like, what happened? I got up really early as well, and I feel like it's all, you know. So there was a bit of that.
man, you sound like Wilma Flintstone.
Yeah, I wake up in the morning, I bang the little bird thing on the head to stop it, you know. Anyway.
I've just now pictured you standing behind the door if she comes in late with like a rolling pin, going, "My mother told me never to marry a lout like you."
She's much more interested in dinner than that makes me certain. Anyway, I'll cut that out.
What a picture! What a picture we're painting here. Yeah. Okay. So I certainly like Time Heist. What did I think about it? It's a fairly simplistic plot for what has elements of time travel and, you know, like gathering together a band of nerds.
Well, a heist movie. I mean, for a heist movie, it's quite I don't want to say simplistic necessarily, but it is quite simple. There's not that big, you know, double bluff and all that kind of thing that you usually get that has kind of become a bit of a trope and a bit insufferable to the point that Dan Harmon, who wrote Community and writes Rick and Morty, has written 2 separate, like, one episode of Community and one episode of Rick and Morty talking about how much he hates heist movies. So, you know, it's clearly got to him.
Yeah. And it is simplistic, considering you have a time travel element to it. Taking that away, it seems like the easiest bank to get it. Once you've got past the bravado of the front door, the security, the breathing into that little kind of, you know, holy water collection thing that you get in the wall of your grand's house on the way out. It seems fairly easy to get down into these kind of nameless, featureless corridors, and then get to the bank. It seems fairly simplistic, but with all of it, I think it probably it's very definitely style over substance. But I admired the style, and whatever I felt whatever I was experiencing when I first sat down to watch it, and again for this now, I was just in the mood for it to kind of like breeze over me. Like it's a triumph directorially.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good stuff in this.
Yeah,
and I think you're right. It comes down to the direction a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I certainly really like the Teller. I don't know if I'd ever want to see him back. I think it was really good for just that story. I don't know if I'd want to see what the racial dynamic is, or other than the motivation that was presented in this episode. I don't know if I'd want to see like a whole. Maybe you could say the same of the Weeping Angels, but you know what I mean? Like I enjoyed it that it was a real thing rather than a CGI bit of craziness. That it was a thing that the actors could react to, and it was something that looked believable. Like I like the Teller. I like that weird mix of brutality and sadness that it seemed to have, and it's what I'm going to appropriate. When I was looking through YouTube for some Time Heist extras, there was a reaction video where they'd referred to Americans who'd referred to this as the dick-eyed thought monster. And now I've said.
I mean, that's an excellent episode title, but I can't use it, I suppose, if we've taken it for something.
Well, I didn't want to even say it. I was like, that has tickled me too far beyond the point that I'm comfortable using it. And now I find I've just said it anyway. The dick-eyed thought monster, but
that's brilliant.
But the eyes, and the fact that it's real, makes it like it's a guy in a costume. It's and it gets even more weird when you see it without the straitjacket thing on. When you see it like walking down the hillside at the end of the episode, it's got his arse out. It's got enormous claws. It's
yeah,
very muscular stride to it. You know, it's.
No, it is a great design, and I think there is a real presence to it. It's one of those kind of great sort of Doctor Who monster performances, I think. So yeah, I mean, I think that's great. I think
so just say for your benefit, even because it showed up on camera, when I did this, I'm not just going fucking Mark's talking now.
He does it all the time when we're not on film.
I've got the notes here on the phone, so just
right.
In case everyone goes, he's a dick.
What a rude dick. I'm amazed they've lasted 6 years.
Sorry.
But I think there's a really gorgeous use of like color and framing, and you know the way that it looks. I forgot to actually check who the cinematographer or director of photography, depending on what term they're using, on this was, because I think it's shot beautifully. It looks really great. I mean, I guess that's maybe a kind of, because they're kind of trying to do this sort of stylish hustle kind of thing. That obviously, they want it to look slick. They want it to look really cool. And yeah, a lot of it does just boil down to that standard Doctor Who thing of running down corridors. But I think there's a way to shoot that makes it exciting and scary. You looked as if you were about to regenerate there. I don't know.
Oh yeah, sorry. Did the background start bleeding into? Oh, here we. Oh shit. Oh, what have I done? Oh no.
Oh my god.
Well, it's kind of funny that happened at exactly the point where I just realised that I hadn't changed my background to the.
Oh.
So this was only supposed to. This TARDIS console room was only supposed to be for the introduction.
Got you. All right, I'm intrigued.
I had.
What have we got now?
It is the Bank of Carabraxos.
Nice.
In the background, I'm just kind of floating around in one of the, private vault.
Nice. Yeah.
Know,
yeah. Just kind of hovering.
Yeah. Oh fuck! This done it again. It's fucked.
That's so weird. Why is that?
I might have to re-key.
Is it the lighting or something?
The lighting, yeah. Let me read. Because I'm moving around so much, I probably just need to pick up space instead of. Okay, sorry. Have you finished? Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, sorry. I was waiting for you to, because I kind of lost the thread. But I mean, aside from the references to hustle and heist movies, I did kind of make a list of like films that this kind of like cribs from. So I've got kind of Pulp Fiction / Kiss Me Deadly, which is that kind of golden briefcase reveal at the start. That's in there. There's Moon as well, with the kind of cloning. And the kind of, the cloning of the workers, and it's all that kind of thing. Which is a bit of a spoiler for Moon. I should have maybe made. You've all seen it. It's been out for years. But then what I also thought was funny was it's essentially the Wizard of Oz.
Oh Christ!
For all the heist stuff, for all that, what this essentially is the Wizard of Oz. It's and it really, and it never occurred to me the first time I watched this. But I was like, right, so hang on a minute. So he wants his memory. He wants a brain. Essentially, he wants his memories back.
Yeah. Okay.
She wants, to have her genes stabilized, so she can just keep one form and form kind of human person-to-person relationships. And the person,
sorry,
and the person kind of who can give them all those things. I'll wait for you to.
Sorry, I'll do this now, so I'm not fucking around while you're trying to make the point. And
that's right. And obviously the reveal at the end, which Doctor Who thing on Twitter said is the sort of least reveal ever in Doctor Who. But obviously that kind of revealed that the architect or the wizard is actually just a guy who obviously turns out to be the Doctor.
Yeah, okay.
But it's not some kind of big grand thing. It's literally just this guy that we already kind of know.
Right. Which is goes back to that famous quote of William Hartnell's when he was interviewed about who is the Doctor, what is the role, and he said it's a mix of Father Christmas and the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And we have that. Oh man, that was staring me in the face, and I didn't see it. Yes, you're because I was like focused on the heist element of it.
Yeah.
And yes, it is. It's the Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
So from that, I thought it was quite interesting to kind of do that big slick heist movie, but actually it's kind of owes, I think, maybe a bit more to the Wizard of Oz than it does Ocean's 11.
Because is there anything more? Is there anything more like a house that is picked up in a storm and thrown into an adventure than the TARDIS at the start of this?
Well, literally, obviously, in the end of Spyfall, that's literally
what it is.
What it is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, and I get you now. Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's made it a lot more. I did like these guys. I did. It's kind of weird that there are many shots and character moments of kind of like forced that seem to be forced on the audience of Clara hugging the other character, like who are they, sorry,
Sai and Saber, isn't it?
Saber. Like, we don't know them before this episode. In fact, we don't know them at all. They're placed in the same room as the Doctor and Clara right at the start.
Yeah.
We don't know where they've come from or nothing. There's no companion origin story where the Doctor sees them at the hottest nightclub in town or fucking wherever. But I don't know, the casting seems to be better than. Weirdly, I'm more I'm more willing to believe these guys as part of a team and to care about them when, I mean, we know at the end there was like a kind of little transport bullet or something, but we thought they were going to die. I felt more for them. I felt more happiness when they proved to be back in action at the end than I did in something that kind of tonally seems very similar, Into the Dalek. I liked the characters here more than I liked the characters in Into the Dalek.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And also, I think it feels less, I mean, I guess because... So the Doctor gets the phone call and recruits them. It's not like he has met them before.
No, he goes specifically looking for them. There's in that kind of little memory jog at the end, you see him, like working at the TARDIS.
So is that like his little address book of all like?
Nah, you see him looking through. I think it's on the scanner of the TARDIS. He's looking through, or like he's Googling.
Yeah, criminals.
But criminals with what will I probably need? Download memory abilities.
But that to me a bit more. I guess slightly more believable because it's a heist movie, I guess, than something like A Good Man Goes to War, where it's just like, here's a bunch of people you've never met before, but they're all going to fight for the Doctor and take this space station. And you, as a viewer and as a Doctor Who fan, watch something like Good Man Goes to War and be like, well, yeah, if you're going to make this big, bold, storyline, which you could argue feels like a season finale, but is only in the middle of the, doesn't quite have the budget. Why wouldn't you just go and get people we've already met and make it like a big thing?
Yeah.
Whereas this is just like, he needs some criminals, he goes and finds some criminals. Yeah. They kind of make friends, and I'm surprised we don't see them again. I'm sure there's probably comic strips and like sort of annual stories and stuff like that where they turn up again or something. But
one of the things that you said, and picking up on some of the listener correspondence, is you said that the certain series themes are very heavy, very prevalent. Yes. What did you mean by that? What are you looking at?
I feel so obviously Into the Dalek you mentioned as a thing, and in that a lot of it is the kind of Doctor's pragmatism, that kind of people No, wait. The line I'm about to use is from Mummy on the Orient Express, but I guess it's kind of it does fit. But that kind of people, what is it? People with guns to their heads don't have time to mourn, or it's something like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the 12th Doctor's approach to things. And I feel like this is another story where they're kind of just like, yeah, this is the Doctor who says what he means. This is the Doctor who, he's not going to pull his punches and he's not going to lie to you. And he's, you might die, and that's just kind of what it is. Like that whole bit with the first time you see the teller.
Yeah.
And he's kind of squashing that guy's brain out of his eyes, which is quite dark, but it's kind of, I suppose, kind of lightly dealt with. It's not particularly graphic, but in terms of what is actually happening, it's quite dark. And Clara's like, help him. And obviously if they help them, their cover's blown, but then also the Doctor's like, it's too late anyway. Mm-hmm. And those aren't tears, it's soup. All that kind of thing.
Yeah, and the way he pronounces soup is the way that your granddad used to say the word soup on a Sunday when you went to your parent grandparents.
As a side note, I love how Scottish Capaldi is in this.
Soup.
He's very. I don't know. There's just certain lines he gets.
Yeah.
Where he really, fucking really gets to be Scottish. It's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that kind of thing and that kind of idea that he. Does that make him a good man? Is he, and that bit where Saber's like, oh, you are a good man. I always wanted to meet one of those, and then she dies, but doesn't die. She gets teleported because, as we all know, from 15 years of new Doctor Who, it's always a teleport.
Yeah,
it's always a teleport. It's never death. It's always a teleport.
Yeah.
Whenever somebody goes,
just this one,
and then they sort of materialize away, it's a teleport. It's not a ray gun.
Yeah, just this once, and every other time that I want it to happen, everybody lives. Is the Stephen Moffat motto, which is it's no bad thing. Because I was happy when those guys came back. So
no, definitely. I mean, I think also it reflects much better on the Doctor's character that as the architect of the whole thing, he has given them a way out. It's not a suicide pill.
Yeah.
It's a literal, way out of the situation, so they can come back and help, where needed. So yeah, I do kind of agree with JR in that it does feel as if it gives you that kind of arc for the eighth Doctor, for series 8, and the 12th Doctor, in one episode, but then kind of deals with it. You know what I mean? It kind of, like, Clara seems all right with him by the end of it. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Sai and Saber want to hang out with him again. He seems like quite jovial and friendly.
Yeah,
and
he buys everybody Chinese food.
Yeah, like he's
a relatively simple trip home.
Yeah, it's the 12th Doctor that from Series 10.
Yeah.
By the end of it. So it'll be really odd to then watch stuff like The Caretaker and Kill the Moon, and where we're still kind of languishing in this fucking idea that maybe he's a wrong-un.
Yeah. So this was written apparently before it was known that Peter Capaldi was going to be the Doctor.
Well, that's interesting. I did wonder about that because for all I'm saying about kind of how he kind of seems to be the 12th Doctor that we kind of know by the end of Series 10, right up until that last line, which is, was it robbing a whole bank, beat that for a date. I can imagine Matt Smith delivering that line beautifully. But Peter Capaldi delivering it is just like, what? So what, you're jealous?
Yeah, it's a bit sinister, isn't it? It's a bit...
Yeah, it's like, so there's like a kind of romantic jealousy there, but you spent the whole of the first episode of this series sort of outlining how that's not a thing anymore. It's a bit... Yeah. So it feels like you're right. I can see now. That's good. I wasn't just going mad.
Yeah. Well, but it is weird. It is weird. You're saying that some of it seems he seems to get very Scottish, and I wonder, because it's obviously Steve Thompson and Stephen Moffat.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of wonder what bits is Who's.
There's some really great lines in this that I don't think are Steve Thompson. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. So I do wonder if he's like kind of got this basic idea. You know, we don't know who the Doctor is going to be, so maybe focus on the plot, focus on like a grand scheme, just put a doctor-ish somebody down in those pages, and then you get stuff. So it was written beforehand, but you also feel like you're witnessing some sort of revisions to the script, which were made hours after you discovered who it was going to be that's doing it, because you're saying so fine. So suddenly, you know, it's a Scottish guy, and he's going to speak in his Scottish accent. So here's a bunch of Scottish, like saying the words. There is no, apart from the word murder from Taggart, there is no other more Scottish word than soup.
Yeah.
in any way you choose to say it. So you go, right, that was written when they found out it's not a Welsh guy, it's not an American guy, it's not an upper class English guy, it's an older Scottish guy's doing it. That's why the word's
yeah.
And then you very definitely get when he's trying to work out the stuff at the end, he's going, shut it up, shut it. And they go, that's not just about, that's about going, here's a Malcolm Tucker moment.
It's the most Malcolm Tucker moment of Peter Capaldi's whole run as the Doctor, isn't it?
That he gets. So it's interesting what you're saying about there's this kind of trying to key it in with the rest of the series, that he's kind of grumpy and that people comment on his grumpiness and his lack of emotion or empathy, but that somehow the boundary is Clara, and Clara's got to be communicated with. And, you know, like that line, which is, you've obviously known him a while because you're very good at apologizing for it. And you go, I can see the layers. Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions here, but it feels like you can see the layers of the archaeology in terms of what writer has placed what into what draft and been responsible. And what you feel is, I don't want to say that Stephen Moffat has given it a polish, because it doesn't feel like a polish, but it feels like he's overlaid some stuff onto it, and that's what you've got.
There's some, but I do think that a lot of the dialogue is very Stephen Moffat.
Yes, yeah.
Like that kind of line, you know, we do not wish to harm you before incineration.
Yeah.
You know, and also there's another great sort of Scottishy bit where he's like, you know, was it, judgments on sanity from the self burner. It's like, it's great. Fantastic.
And you're a psychiatrist's big break or something like that, talking to Kavarian at the end.
Yeah.
Kavarian. What a slip saying the word Kavarian.
Well, shall we?
Yes.
Let's talk about Keeley Hawes, which I'm always delighted to talk about Keeley Hawes because I think she's fantastic. But so that does lead me to my to this episode's Christ, do you remember that?
Yes. Internet recollections.
So obviously 2014 this goes out, was the same year as I think the second series of Line of Duty, which had Keeley Hawes as the sort of detective under investigation. I won't say if she's a hero or a villain in case people haven't kind of got caught up yet.
Sure.
I mean, it is 6 years ago, so come on. It's one of the biggest shows in BBC.
It's weird. You didn't care a jot if people hadn't seen Moon, and then you just gave that away.
Longer ago. That was like 2000 and whatever.
Okay, so there's a time limit. There's a very definite mark time limit.
Yeah. 10 years or more. Go fuck yourself. So, anyway, and she's cast as, she's cast in a kind of like, in that thing that Doctor Who does. And it's like, they know full well what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They'll cast a big name actor, but they won't tell you who they're playing.
Right, sure.
You know, they could be playing a villain, or they could be playing a hero. You know, don't know who they're going to be playing. And obviously, they know what they're going to do. What that does, it then leads to tweets and, you know, Facebook statuses and all this kind of, you know, 600, 800 page, 600, 800 words articles on the Radio Times website going, oh, who could Keeley Hawes be playing?
Yeah, okay.
And obviously, the general consensus was that Keeley Hawes would be playing the Rani. I don't know if you remember this.
Well, at the very Did I think that? So there was definitely the idea that she was the woman who gave the phone number and the
There
bells
was
of St.
that. Yeah,
John.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
remember that.
there was a baseline of that, and yes, there was definitely a kind of building momentum as to, is it the Rani that's
Yeah.
going to be the big bad for this season?
So
Yeah.
what I didn't know at the time, because I was kind of keeping away from Gallifrey base, because I think that's just a good way to live your life. But at that time, apparently there was a rumor going around that they were going to bring the Master back, and the Master was going to be played by a woman. So I think quite a few people thought Keely Hawes was going to be this female version of the Master. Obviously, that was not to be. But then the sort of, I think more people were kind of like, oh, she's going to be the Rani. Wouldn't that be great? Because actually, Keely Hawes as the Rani, I think would be pretty good, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I did a quick Twitter search from this time of Keely Hawes Rani. I've come up with some tweets with it. Essentially, it's just like loads of people just saying so stuff like, I know I say this about 3 actresses per series of Doctor Who on average, which I feel like every time a big name female actor is cast in Doctor Who, it's like, oh, they're playing the Rani.
Yeah.
Which I guess is why Michelle Gomez as the Master is so brilliant, because nobody would have seen that coming. But, Keely Hawes is totally the Rani. Maybe the next Rani. Why Keely Hawes is the perfect choice for a Doctor Who villain on The Guardian. So, like I say,
The Guardian.
600, 800 page word articles about actors. But I think this was obviously that kind of capitalizing on Line of Duty, because Series 2's where that kind of really took off in popularity. And a lot of that was down to Keely Hawes' performance as Lindsay Denton. But yeah, so Keely Hawes is the Rani facing Peter Capaldi's Doctor. Wouldn't that be great? All this kind of thing. And there's also a tweet here saying, "Evil Keely Hawes is sexy as hell. Keely Hawes for the Rani," and that's from a guy called Mark Donaldson. Back on 13th of March 2014.
Oh my! Somebody's getting a cancelling.
I don't think anybody's going to disagree with me that there's something quite attractive about Lindsay Denton in Line of Duty. Just because just that slight evilness, brilliant. But I think she's really good.
That's so much more power since you've got an open collar and an unloosened tie, and a little
slightly ruddy
quiff.
So, yeah. That was a very Sid James laugh. Thank you. I can't achieve that. But I do think that sometimes I think maybe this is why Time Heist is another one of those kind of like, it's kind of middle of the road Doctor Who, because they cast Keely Hawes, they play to that kind of speculation, and then they give you a Doctor Who villain, and a good Doctor Who villain. I think she plays it really well, but it's not. I guess it's not one of those kind of villains that's going to go down in the kind of annals of Doctor Who history. If
you strip away all of that stuff, which I didn't remember a lot of that, but there was definitely a point where, like as I said to you in a message, watching Time Heist again, there was a lot of like memory worm moments where I'm like, oh, I remember watching it and feeling like something big was going to happen. This was going to be one of those kind of mythology tentpole moments in the series. We're going to get, when he hands her the phone number at the end. One day you're going to regret something. And I went, of course you do, and that's why you're phoning Clara. And there's all kinds of stuff. But I definitely remember there was that kind of thing. And when you strip that away, though, watching it again, when you strip that away, what you get is a fairly ably performed. She obviously relishes doing it.
Yeah,
it's fairly bog standard, and you get the feeling that the production also thought it was kind of fairly bog standard as well, because they dress her in the same kind of outfit as Madame Kovarian, and pretty much identically the same outfit as Sarah Lancashire's character in Partners in Crime. And so you feel again like you go, okay, well, I've seen this shit before.
And I think that I don't think that's her fault. I think you're right.
It's certainly not her fault.
It's a writing thing because, and I don't know if this, you know, I don't think either of us are the right people to talk about this. But I do wonder if it's a kind of a particularly male view of a female villain. You know, it's a power suit. It's ambition.
It's like on top of the head, scrunched up.
Yeah.
Like there's like an aching scalp at the end of it. It's like buttoned up and in black, like they're in mourning, but for the good heart they once had. They're very delicate about everything. The way she holds pens, little communicators, and all that kind of stuff. You know, with this viciousness behind these fairly delicate statements. Yeah, I would agree with that. There's maybe something of the,
and that's why I you know,
we don't like.
Yeah, and that's why I think, you know, Line of Duty going out that same year, the start of that year, is like that series in particular, because she's in the third series as well, but it really shows how great she is at these kind of like ambiguous, sort of multifaceted characters.
Yeah.
But the script doesn't give her much to do other than be kind of button, like you say, a kind of buttoned up businesswoman. And it's only in the kind of final few scenes in the vault where there is a slight, they kind of play with the kind of clone, docile servant version. Yeah. And then there's the more sinister manipulator and business, like sort of proper, sort of like cutthroat businesswoman version. Yeah. But again, it's still that kind of male idea of kind of the, you know, the office bitch, you know, that kind of thing. It's
I wonder. Sorry, again, memory worm moment. I remember having this thought, and maybe did we talk about it?
Possibly.
If did they cast her because of Ashes to Ashes, because the reveal of who the master was John Sim, you know, like back with David Tennant, and did they want to do the same thing kind of again by going, it's not the master, but it is another Time Lord, and it's played by someone else who was in that 70s 80s Gene Hunt thing, you know? We'll do that.
I would not. You mention that. I don't know if it. Yeah, I don't know, but it would have absolutely played into all that speculation.
Yeah. I'm sure.
They would have known. Like I say, they would have known exactly what they were doing by going. Keely Hawes is going to be in Doctor Who. We're not going to tell you who she is, isn't it? Though?
Yeah, because there was a period where Keely Hawes, Line of Duty, but also Ashes to Ashes.
Yeah.
She was one of the biggest kind of
Spooks BBC, as well before all of that.
Yeah, she was one of the biggest BBC names.
Oh, aye.
And so it seems like just to give her something that seemed like such a bog standard baddie. Seems like such a ball drop. It's unbelievable.
It's weird. You do get that in Doctor Who, and I do feel like it seems to happen a lot to women rather than male guest actors. I mean, there's certainly examples of underused male actors in sort of new series Doctor Who, but you know, Olivia Colman in the 11th Hour.
Yeah, everyone was like really. Yeah, there was.
I mean, Sarah Lancashire, Partners in Crime, is good, but you look at everything Sarah Lancashire's done since then. Amazed, like Happy Valley, Last Tango in Halifax, fantastic. She could have been given a much more interesting character to play. Yeah. But then I suppose you say all that with the benefit of hindsight. But
okay. Can I say something that I don't know if endears me or not? Okay. But when you talked about Olivia Colman, the thing that immediately sprang into my head was to say, yeah, I was real, like when I heard that Bella Emberg was going to be in Love and Monsters, I got really excited and then was really disappointed when she was just essentially a speaking extra.
Yeah. Is there not like a deleted scene of Bella Emberg from like another story as well?
Is there? Oh, yeah, is she like a neighbour in she had the wedding and the runaway bride or something like that? Is that?
I feel like Russ. I feel like
Or is
I don't know if
she?
it's in the. I mean, the writer's tale is probably behind me here somewhere, but
Yeah,
I feel like there is more Bella Emberg in Doctor Who that was never.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe it's just more stuff from Love and Monsters. I don't know, but I think they do play a game. They absolutely play a game with who are they going to be playing?
yeah.
That's and then when you cast actors of a certain caliber, or maybe that's a bit harsh to like other actors, but actors who are at, let's say, a certain stage in their career in Doctor Who,
Yeah, somebody who's been the
that gives you
lead in a
certain
number of
expectations.
prime TV shows.
Yeah,
Okay, so Line of Duty was something of an ensemble, but she was very much
she was
one of the main
the
characters.
focus of series 2. Yeah,
Yeah. Ashes to Ashes for 3 series. So
yeah.
a series longer than the original thing it came from. I mean, you
Mhm.
could also argue his life on Mars and Ashes to Ashes, 2 different series, or is it one 5-year thing?
Yeah.
But yeah, there was okay, I don't know. So see, I mean, I don't think she does anything wrong. I just feel like, yeah, you're right. There's something in the writing that's kept it from being.
Yeah, it's definitely like, I just think it's just quite a stock female baddie.
Yeah.
There's not a lot for her to sink her teeth into as an actor, which I think is a bit of a shame. But aye.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like we're heading towards wrapping it up.
I feel like we are. I was actually one other little note I wrote before we move into favourite scenes, favourite performances. Is that we could have actually quite easily paired this with The Mind of Evil, which we did obviously last episodes.
Yes.
There's a lot of, and also I think as I can't remember who it was that said in listener correspondence is that there is a lot of kind of similar beats to listen in this about kind of fear and guilt, and a lot of kind of like pink lighting, and I guess stylistically it looks at that because Douglas McKinnon is the director, but I think there's certainly some themes that kind of hang over from Listen, and like I say, kind of define the whole series 5 episodes in.
Yeah. Sorry, just Douglas McKinnon there is worth talking about. It is if you get a chance, all of the Doctor Who extras that went out are on YouTube. They talked to Douglas McKinnon. There's a couple of nice little nuggets about Douglas McKinnon that are worth talking about. First one being that when the Doctor and team crawl into, I was going to call her Kavarian again. It's Madame Carabraxos.
Yeah.
Even with the Madam, they give her 50% of the same other villain's name. When they crawl into that Carabraxos vault, there is a kind of little display glass tube that's got what looks like a little rocket inside of it. And it is when he was putting together the stuff on set, they were talking about it. It's the greatest treasures in the universe, and it's a little rocket made out of toilet tubes by his daughter. And he says on this Doctor, it is one of the most precious things he has. So he put it in this pride of place, which is right in the center in this dot when they start clambering through the air duct thing. So I really like that. And also, he's such a mental Doctor Who fan, apparently, that when that series was being produced, he was just reading scripts from all the other episodes and preparing them as a director. Not because he had to do the job.
Yeah,
just he thought it would be fun to do that. So
I think, if I remember right, he worked on. I think he still does, but he certainly worked on Line of Duty series 2. So I don't know if he had some input into the casting of Keely Hawes.
Yes, it was him that suggested it.
Yeah, okay.
And by Doctor Who Extra, it seems like they didn't have anyone else in mind. They just was like, Keely Hawes, let's do it. So anyway, do you know what, mate? Favorite scenes, favorite performances.
Favorite scenes. I like the Doctor and Carabraxos's confrontation at the end.
Yeah.
I think Capaldi is really great at that confrontation stuff, because he's been watching Doctor Who for years and he knows how that works. You know what I mean? And he's really brilliant in it. So I'd say that's my favorite scene. Favorite performances. Capaldi, probably. I think Jenna Coleman does some nice stuff in it. I really like when the vault starts opening, and there's this look of kind of like excitement in her face. As far as she's aware, 2 people have died, and she is quite horrified. But at the same time, she's still got that kind of investigative nature and that kind of adventurous spirit. And it's just a really subtle touch by her, but I think it says a lot about that character.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those two.
Yes.
And Keeley Hawes, obviously, but yeah, I'd like to say, I think writing wise, I don't think she could be as, as good as she could be.
I certainly like Capaldi. I think that maybe the ambiguity between the layers of the 2 writers means that he's caustic but softer than he was in Into the Dalek. So, so you get the impossible situation that he thinks he's in it. His memory has been wiped as well. But when he's saying goodbye or trying to convince, is it Saber? Sorry, is that the name
Saber,
of it?
yeah, Saber.
When they're in the tunnel and he's convincing her to use the thing that turns out is the transporter, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You get a sense that he's being practical but holding back emotion at the same time. So you feel like he's got a greater kind of meshing between the empathy and the practicality, which I like.
Yeah, definitely.
Favorite scene, I love when the teller is coming to Clara, and she's hiding down the end of the nondescript corridor.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this before, it's got what I love in horror, which is it's more frightening in horror when the thing that is coming to get you is far away and slowly coming towards you, rather than things surprising you suddenly.
Yeah.
So when you see the long corridor and the teller and they shoot it so that you've got the kind of perspective of Clara, and the teller is like right back in the distance. It's like you can see it in the Nosferatu film.
Yes.
Like the Jonathan Harker character has a suspicion something is happening outside the door, so goes to look out the door, and you see the count, but way down the corridor, and you can just picture in your head the slow movement of horror coming towards you. It's not suddenly surprising you. I love that scene. Yeah, it is middle of the road, but as a piece of entertainment, like not everything has to be about mythology, and I think this is the first one that's not about mythology, really. Deep Breath is obviously...
because I was about to say Robot of Sherwood, but then the whole story is about mythology. Not necessarily the show's mythology, but...
It's about it's about the idea of Robin Hood versus somebody else who like the Doctor has been around so long, people probably think it's a real thing. Even though it's a it's a fictional TV creation. So this is the first one where it's just a Doctor Who adventure. And we've talked about this before, that when people see a Doctor Who adventure, their first thing is to take against it because it's not an immediate classic. It's just attempting to be good television rather than a good entry into that series. So that was Time Heist. That was Time Heist, mate. And I really appreciate your cosplay.
Thank you. I'm going to just change it to my much more elaborate Ribos Operation cosplay.
Tell me you've got a figure-hugging silk
white dress
to put on.
No, I don't. I'm going to just carry on wearing this. Maybe I'll just take the jacket off. Just unbutton the shirt a bit more.
But yes, that is. We're going to have a little break, and then it's going to be the Ribos Operation. We're back. Here we are. That's me. I'm just back from chatting with my great mate, the Guardian. He's just outside the TARDIS. The Doctor's going to go and speak to him just now. So while he's doing that, let's get on with the rest of On the Time, Lash, Mark.
Sounds good.
I'm enjoying my virtual backgrounds. This is nice. We paired Time Heist with the Ribos Operation.
Yes.
Shall we go straight into it? Let's go into the stats.
Why not?
So the Ribos Operation was written by Robert Holmes and it was directed by George Spenton Foster. It was broadcast between Saturday the 2nd and Saturday the 23rd of September 1978, and it was watched by an average of about 8 million people. With the highest being 8.3 million for episode 1 and the lowest episode 3 being 7.9 million, but it was much of a muchness.
Yeah.
It maintained its audience. Back to the original way of doing it. It's time for...
Still without the jingle, because we've
without the jingle. It's Degsy's Where Did It Come game. So Mark and Derek, via text, where do you think the Ribos Operation comes in the original poll, which was the magazine's first 5 decades poll?
Yeah, Derek says, I've just watched the first 2 episodes of Ribos for this, and my favourite thing was the banter between the Fourth Doctor and Romana. I also enjoyed Ian Cuthbertson and Paul Seed's performances. I was going to watch it all, but I need to work, so couldn't. I will, though. The fact it's a home story makes me want to give it a positive guess, so I'm going to say 114, Derek says. Yeah, I think it's a weird old story. I like it a lot, but there's something not... You're right.
I like it. Okay. No. It's just the way you said that. I was like, okay, well...
Would you not?
Sparks will fly, sir.
Oh, interesting. Okay. But it's not... Yeah, it's not what you want your Doctor Who to be every week.
Or
I would say.
Slam.
So, yes. So let's go... So Derek said 114. I'll go... I think it's probably a bit lower than that. Because I don't think it's a much loved Robert Holmes story. Mm-hmm. What was the 2 Doctors? Can you remember what the 2 Doctors was? Because it's a fuck's sake better than that.
No, I can't.
I'll go 126.
Okay. Derek was closest. It is, in fact, 103 out of 200.
Wow,
yeah, 103 out of 241, between 102, The Unicorn and the Wasp, and 104, The Mask of Mandragora.
Interesting.
That'd be very interesting to see what that is on that new poll we use for the other.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I do wonder. I mean, it's well, let's hear what some listeners have to say, shall we?
Yes, please.
Stephen B of the always excellent New to Who podcast. Ribos Operation does a lot of heavy lifting. A new season, a new companion, a new conceit and impetus for the Williams era in a rather smart way. With Robert Holmes unafraid to deal with ambiguity surrounding class and capital and prevailing religious beliefs against repressed science. It's clever and dryly funny, but Ribos isn't especially brilliant or memorable Doctor Who. There's a certain cynicism to Holmes by now, and his preference to focus on the Graph and Garon while relegating the key to time to a MacGuffin shows that his heart isn't in Williams's arc idea. The true highlight is surely Mary Tamm's Romana, the definitive, you might say. After Leela, a problematically conceived and executed character, despite Louise Jameson possibly being the best actress to play a companion ever, Romana is the perfect next iteration of the companion. For if the Doctor corresponds in terms of this is where it gets a bit intellectual, and that's why I always quite like the New 2 podcast. For if the Doctor corresponds in terms of the Greek pantheon of gods, at least, to Hermes, the ever-changing healer, who spends most of his time away from Olympus, then Romana is Athena, rational, intelligent, and somewhat slightly detached. Athena is also, amongst other things, the patron goddess of heroic endeavour. She's the Doctor's superior, smarter than him, and so always advising and also saving him. Equally, the Doctor is able to show her the ways of the universe that only experience may teach anybody. The Doctor and Romana 1 are arguably the most perfectly complementary Doctor and companion team of all time. Throw in a robot computer dog with an inbuilt laser defense system who is loyal to them both and even is haughty, and you have my favorite TARDIS team ever.
Wow. Okay.
I like that because it's, is what I love about kind of about Doctor Who podcasting is, you take Greek mythology and analysis, Doctor Who, Greek mythology, and then it's going. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's got like a robot dog with a laser in its nose, and that's fun as well. It's just, it's great.
I'm suddenly feel inadequate. Have we ever gotten near Greek mythology as a conversation point?
I did want to talk about Jean Cocteau films, so I mean it's not quite Greek mythology, but
yeah, but there was the word cock in there, so we had a laugh as well. So.
Where are we? This is interesting. Deborah says the Ribos Operation is perfect comfort watching Who, not for Ben Worth. From the delightfully surreal intro on, every character is memorable, the dialogue sparkles, and the world building is effective. Binro's pathos lifts the story an extra level. Glam Queen Mary Tamm instantly gets Romana's brilliance and naivety. Dylan Reese, the Ribos Operation bored me shitless as a kid.
Oh, Dylan and me are going to be good friends.
Well, hold that thought. All talking and one shoddy monster isn't what I wanted from my Doctor Who. As an adult, and I love that he puts adult in inverted commas, because I think we're all adults.
Yeah, like he's been medically diagnosed, rather than he's come at that understanding himself.
Yeah, I identify as an adult. This is my favorite of the season. The season being season 16, of course, not.
Yeah.
Holmes, the guest cast, and the regulars all deliver just the right amount of over the top to make this an absolute gem.
Incorrect.
Sorry,
we're not going to be friends.
So Jeff Waddle says, which I think we're going to get back to Ben's.
Me and Jeffy, baby.
The Ribos Operation is a strange one. Not enough going on broadcast to hold my interest. In fact, I'd say that about most of the Key to Time season. But better now. But even Jeff says it's better than he. But it's better now that I can see it for what it is. A kind of Shakespearean. Is that a word? Yeah, of course it's a word, Jeff.
Yeah.
A kind of Shakespearean play. Mary Tamm will always be my favourite Romana. And there's a real kind of interesting refrain here, because J.R. Southall also says, hated the Ribos Operation as a kid, love it as an adult. That's not what Doctor Who should be all the time, of course, but every once in a while it's fine. And I think... Oh, yeah, and Paul McAvoy says, I can't get through the Key to Time. I don't know how many times I've tried, but this story just won't let me continue. An amazing episode 1 that sets things up, makes the next 3 feel like an absolute eternity. Maybe there's some great stuff in the Key to Time. I'll never know, and I'm fine with that. Why aren't these heist stories more fun? And that is an interesting, because Time Heist isn't... Because I think sometimes with heist... I mean, we're going back to Time Heist a bit, but I think, there is a thing with heist movies where they're always quite smug, because everybody's just really enjoying, like, taking people for a ride. But yeah, I think Time Heist doesn't quite go in on that. It kind of makes it just a bit darker and a bit more serious.
Mm-hmm.
And Ribos Operation, I think there is a bit more of that fun in there. But yes, it is quite it's a bit overwritten, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I would say.
Did you like it? Did you? Yeah,
I did like it.
I think we suspect what I'm going to say, but did you like it?
I like the. I don't think it works all the time for the sort of full 100 minutes, but I do like the mixture of kind of medieval imagery, this kind of talk of like mineralogical surveys and laser guns and weird monsters, and this kind of quite nice concoction of sort of various different sort of Doctor Who tropes, I guess, if you want to use that word, sort of bundled together. I think there's I really think Tom Baker and Mary Tamm are excellent in this. I think it's quite funny that obviously, the difficulties that Tom Baker and Louise Jameson had are well documented. And there's probably no point in kind of going over them again here, but it's quite funny that they make a point of the Doctor having a companion forced upon him at the start of this.
Yeah.
But what I really love about the first episode in particular is that it really puts the Fourth Doctor on the back foot, which actually makes Tom Baker do some interesting stuff that he's not done as the Doctor before.
Mm-hmm.
Like how deferential he is to the White Guardian.
Yeah.
Like that constant kind of go, oh, sorry, sir. So, and sort of touching the back of his neck, and, like he's very kind of cowed by this kind of eternal being that's getting him to do his job.
Yeah.
That's really good. And just all that kind of like that Romana is clearly more intelligent than him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of giving her the whole kind of companion speech that, don't walk off, don't think of yourself, and he just strides off and he ends up in an animal net and he looks like an idiot.
Yeah. And she's got dirt on him. She knows his scores from the academy, and they know the home version of that guy. It's okay.
So I think in terms of the character of the Doctor, I think there's some really, really interesting stuff here. And I think there is some really good chemistry from the off with the Doctor and Romana. And to the point I was like, actually, is this... Well, I was about to say, is this? Yes, it is, I would say. And probably the only time until you get, like, the 10th Doctor and Rose. But I think there is a hint of, like... It's like I don't think I wrote down exactly when it happens. But I just wrote, there's, like, a kind of screwball romance element. And obviously you kind of find that a bit more.
Yeah, I got that as well.
You find that more with sort of Tom and Lala because of what I think of their personal life rather than actually what's on screen a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Or what is on screen is them, not the characters. But there's certainly something in the way the Fourth Doctor and Romana are written is that kind of Cary Grant, Katharine Hepburn bickering. Like she's kind of slightly better than him. He's a bit affronted by that. But they're kind of coming to this kind of... agreement and this affection for each other. So I enjoy all of those elements of it. But it's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird to kind of have a semi-historical, but not a historical because it's set on an alien planet, but it's not very sci-fi because everybody's walking around like Jeff says, like it's Shakespeare. The dialogue is very kind of over, like, oh my God, I love the opening of part 3 with Tom Baker and Ian Cuthbertson sort of hiding behind each other. And it's just like, that's right, get up, you Crinsum cur, and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's all very broad.
And then somebody gets slapped across the face with a glove, and it's like, don't slap the craven cur for some...
All of that stuff's really funny. And then also it's kind of that kind of Star Trek The Next Generation thing of the kind of, the pre-warp planet, and you mustn't interfere.
Yeah, but it's got elements on it of people who kind of know that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. There's some sort of alien agents at large.
Yeah. So when it's not a kind of big action adventure Doctor Who story, I think it's quite a good example of what... It's not the best example by any stretch, but I think it's a good example of what Robert Holmes does very well, which is world building and characters. I mean, let's be honest, he... what's the other guy's name? There's Garen and
Unstoff.
Yeah. So those two, he basically writes those two characters for the rest of his career.
Yes.
But with different
they're Glitz and
names.
Dibber. Like they're Glitz and Dibber before they showed up as Glitz and Dibber.
There's a little bit of the... I can't remember the names of the characters there, but William Hurt and... Not William Hurt.
They are Chesini
and
fucking what's his name? The big guy. We did it a couple of episodes
in Revelation
ago.
of Daleks. Yeah.
Shockeye and Chesini.
And Shockeye and Chesini. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. And the two guys. So it's that kind of double act. And I guess it kind of starts with Jago and Lightfoot, but I think there's something slightly different in these two. But I like it. There's some good gags in it. I just like the idea of these two intergalactic con men, one of whom is dreaming of kind of going back to live in Hackney Wick.
Yeah.
That's just a really funny... That's like a Russell T Davies thing. You know what I mean? You can
Yeah.
imagine that in an RTD or a story.
Yeah. From what we know of Robert Holmes writing whole stories like the Sunmakers about not wanting to have to fill out his taxes.
Yeah.
The fact there's that Hackney Wick line in there means something happened to him like pretty soon before that was written, because it goes on to go, Hackney Wick is like, what is Hackney Wick? I don't know, just some fucking dirty mud hole or something. You go, something happened to you. Something like, I don't know, the police pulled you over, or you go overcharged in a shop, or something. Some fucking thing happened to you there.
So why don't you like it?
Why don't? So I can sympathize with all of that, and I can absolutely get on board with all of that. I can see where it's good. I can see where it's good. I can see that it's an interesting story to have like a whole subplot about the dark ages of science and understanding wrapped up in a con man comedy that looks like it should be done. It should be one of those. Remember one of those like Morecambe and Wise movies that they made?
Yes.
Like it feels like it should be that kind of thing, but it's got this kind of idea about, you know, church and spiritual interference in the advance of our society's understanding of science. There's all that kind of stuff, and I understand there's elements which are really well directed, and the writing is very compelling, and there's a lot of comedy. There's a lot of really good comic lines in this. I should be all over this, and I just didn't make a connection with it. I just couldn't, and it's not like I was in a bad mood, or it wasn't like I was in like I was watching it while something else. I was just like stealing the watching of it whilst I was cooking because I was late for preparing for this. I just watched it, and I just, having never seen it before, maybe if I had, it was like kind of like UK Gold in the morning or something like that. So this is essentially New Who, and I just couldn't connect with it. I just couldn't connect with it. I think because Robert Holmes seems like he doesn't really care about writing Doctor Who. He cares about writing for the thing that he wants it to be.
Yeah.
And Doctor Who kind of shows up every now and again. And when he does write Doctor Who, he kind of gets it weirdly wrong. You know, there was a lot of stuff we were talking about. Seeing this after we saw the two Doctors, and there's a lot of chat that we had about Robert Holmes not being script edited by Eric Saberd in the right way, and so therefore a lot of indulgence and a lot of violence comes through. It's weird. I also see this here, as there's a lot of indulgence and a lot of violence comes through. I mean, every now and again we talk about Dr. Hooligan and stuff that the Doctor has done that's a bit kind of questionable. And I think at the end of this, where we have the Doctor sleight of handing a guy a bomb back at him, who then mad, like obviously deranged, obviously not in his right mind, walks off. And then the Doctor sticks around to count down the bomb going off and hear it going off. I just kind of think, wow, that's not quite the Fourth Doctor that we were hoping for. And I really, you know, I'm not, the successful elements are not really the elements which are about Doctor Who. That's not to say that I wouldn't engage with it, because one of my favorite stories is Revelation of the Daleks, and you could obviously say that really that didn't have to be a Doctor Who story, and I still really enjoyed that. There's just something that I just didn't connect with. The way that I think Jeff said it is just like I tried, and I don't want to say boring. I don't want to say boring because I don't want to be negative, because it obviously has some stuff going for it. I just didn't connect with it. Just didn't.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, I can. The thing is, I can see how people could get bored with it, because it's not the Doctor Who you expect. It's a shame they don't, and this is maybe a good time to talk about the Mythmakers tape.
Yes.
But it's a shame that they kind of, and Mary Tamm says this in that interview, is that it's kind of a shame that eventually they kind of just turn her back into kind of the screaming, not quite the screaming Doctor Who companion, but the Doctor seems to be a lot more kind of superior as that series kind of goes on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's talk about it.
Yes.
Well, first, I'd also like to say as well, my drink for the Ribos Operation is
Sure.
is a bottle of spiced pale ale, Winter Star.
Nice. Very
I
nice.
got that. Why? Because it's a world that is battling between an ice god and a sun god, and as we arrive on the planet for the start of the adventure, it's very much in the grip of the ice god.
Yes.
But yeah, no, sorry. So we were talking earlier in the Time Heist episode about the myth makers. Like, I don't think it's all of them, but it's
No, so it's basically, they did some collections of Mythmakers tapes of kind of
Yeah.
like the Doctors, the monsters. So you've got like from basically the Hartnell era to McGann.
McGann, yeah.
As basically various actors, companions, monster actors, all kinds of
Yeah.
people, doctors as well. Interviewed by predominantly Nick Briggs,
Yeah.
sometimes their wives, but they're all on Prime now.
Yeah.
And I said this to you earlier on, that what I always find really strange about the Mythmakers tapes is that they always seem they're one of two things. Either they're really very static, slightly awkward interviews
Yes.
in people's front rooms. Like the Peter Purvis one is, he has a very busy interior design going on. There's a lot of patterns.
Haven't seen that one. Haven't seen that one yet.
There was a lot of sort of pattern going on around Peter
Yeah.
Purvis as he takes you through his career. The other one, the other sort of type of Mythmakers tape, is where they kind of go a bit more out there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a short film directing showcase, and then they do an interview.
Yeah.
So in the case of the Mary Tamm one, it's Mary Tamm is reading Alice's Adventures in Wonderland.
No, she's not. She's reading a dream dictionary.
Oh, is she?
Which makes it even more bizarre.
Right. Yes. Okay. So she's
So
reading.
I don't know if she trained as a psychotherapist or what, but or a hypnotherapist. I don't know, but it's very odd because that's how it starts, and then it goes into this very odd.
Yeah,
sequence.
it goes in. So she falls asleep in a deck chair reading this dictionary, this dream dictionary, and then Nick Briggs shows up as some of the characters from Alice's Adventures, but like the rabbit and the caterpillar, and it's the sort of costume that you've only ever seen a stag dressed up on a stag party. That level of costume is not.
Yeah,
and then you just walk around the ruins of a castle. Oh, you've gone again.
Oh, you've regenerated in Tom Baker.
They walk around. Here we are. I'm back. They walk around the ruins of a castle, and he just interviews her about her career and her time on Doctor Who.
With occasional weird moments, like he drinks a little bottle of magic potion and gets shrunk down.
Yeah, like they can't just have a complete hours interview. They've got to, every now and again they remember that there's a plot.
But I wonder if those two types of myth makers, the front room, if they got to, because obviously I've only ever really watched these out of sequence in these kind of collections that I've had to review, and or I've just watched on Prime just out of wanting to watch something vaguely connected to Doctor Who. But I do wonder if that was what it was. It was just this kind of we can't keep just doing these static interviews in people's houses. What else can we do?
Yeah. Well, so
because there's a really good William Russell one.
Yeah.
Which is on Prime as well. It's basically just him and Nick Briggs walking around London.
Yeah.
And various locations from Dalek Invasion of Earth, and they go to Riverside Studios, and it's good. It's good because it's a really weird kind of time capsule of kind of London in the sort of early to mid 90s, where you can just go to Trafalgar Square and have a chat about Doctor Who and not be absolutely mobbed.
Yeah.
It's
well,
that's really good, that one. But
I started watching the Colin Baker one, and that's kind of like the Mary Tamm one. Somebody who's supposed to be, I don't know if it's actually, but they're supposed to pretend to be, the desiccated husk of the Master from the Deadly Assassin, and they keep on tracking. Sitting at presumably the real time bank of kind of editing screens and stuff. The way the Master, his TARDIS was suddenly just a control room. in the like a director's kind of control room.
Yeah, the gallery.
And takes Nick Briggs and Colin Baker out of Time and puts them down in I think it's the village from the Mark of the Rani. I haven't got that far yet.
Okay.
And they just walk around. Both do a little kind of like, I was just about to step out my house and walk a dog, and now I don't know. And then they go, all right, well, until we get rescued. So, Colin, what did you get into acting? I haven't seen the whole thing, but I'm just like, oh fuck, there must be like a whole mine of these.
Yeah, they're certainly worth what some of them. You know, there's some really good, and I think there is, you know, aside from the bizarre Alice in Wonderland stuff, there is some really interesting insights into that kind of time of Doctor Who production.
Yeah, so like what we're saying is that Mary Tamm in that was going from about halfway through the series. She was kind of not into being Romana anymore because it just looked like it was going nowhere. It was going to be a very bog standard representation of a Doctor Who companion. And they touch on it in the episode that she doesn't have a leaving scene. It just starts in Destiny of the Daleks with Romana, Lalla Ward's Romana, regenerating for a laugh. And because they thought they could convince Mary Tamm to stay, and she was like, "No, I mean it. This is not like you're not writing a female character well here. Sorry, goodbye."
Yeah, and what I found interesting was that she didn't really want to do it at first until she read that it was going to be a character more equal to the Doctor.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't interested in playing that kind of companion that would like make the tea or like
which ask questions.
Yeah, and ask questions.
Which is kind of interesting that in the research piecing together my little DVD collection, Blu-ray collection for this story, is Elizabeth Sladen had been asked to come back.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I'd always known that she'd been approached to be the bridge between Tom Baker and Peter Davison.
Yeah.
But it seems to suggest that she'd also been asked to come back after Leela had gone as well and had refused. And on that basis, they'd gone ahead and created, like completely just finally wiped it as an idea and given them a companion who would best serve the storyline for the series.
Yeah, because I mean, Philip Hinchcliffe talks in the Our Sarah Jane documentary on the Blu-ray box set. He talks about how, because obviously, Sladen herself kind of, I think, says this isn't quite the case. Mm-hmm. But I think the general consensus was that she thought that her contract wouldn't be renewed, so she jumped before she was pushed.
Yeah.
But she was never going to be pushed. And I think piecing together what she said in autobiographies and interviews and stuff like that is that actually she was just kind of thinking it was time for like a different challenge and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Hinchcliffe says like he happily, like he goes, you look at Tom Baker and Liz Sladen and you go, that works. And why would anybody mess with that?
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I mean, I think, so that is interesting that the two producers that come after him both try to bring her back.
Yeah. Like there was some sort of unfinished business. Like there was a lot more potential to tap there. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe they also thought it would bring Tom Baker in line more as well. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because I think she's the kind of the one actor that he always kind of got on with, and yeah. Well,
talking to Mary Tamm as Romana, so I saw a lot of people were quite complimentary, and I'm not going to be, but I just kind of felt like there was a weird, in a story which was kind of for me a little sterile anyway. It's kind of fitting that there was a companion introduced who had quite an austere, cold quality.
Sure.
And I was like, did she mean that? Is that the way they wrote it for her to be kind of like, you know? Because the weird thing is that like Lalla Ward is Romana too, but I always kind of forget that there was an original Romana.
Okay.
And I think it's because I actually don't know much about the Key to Time series, despite one of my favorite stories being The Stones of Blood.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
but I keep forgetting the Mary Tamm. There's a Romana 1.
Mm.
And I was kind of thinking, because yeah, she is a bit kind of dry, or the character is a bit dry, and I'm like, yeah, but then so was the first Doctor. And then it occurred to me, it's weird how the two Romanas that we see on, I've gone again. Oh, where we are. I like how whenever I get near to making a point, this kind of thing bursts my bubble. Let me see what I can do. I'll just take it off
It
again.
looked like you just pressed a button last time and it worked, but I don't know.
No, I just moved my head, and the lighting seemed to be conducive. It's kind of weird that the first two Romanas are very like the first two Doctors.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Is that the first Romana is very austere, kind of uncomfortable in having to do anything that taxes her, and is out with her comfort zone, out with her kind of mental capacity or kind of academic knowledge. And then you get a regeneration, and it just turns into this costume-loving kind of bohemian lover of frivolity, the second Romana and the second Doctor. I just thought that was an interesting comparison.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And they probably didn't intend it. They probably didn't intend it.
I think my take on it is that it's more a kind of idea of, but then I guess it fits with what you're saying about the kind of shift from the first to the second Doctor. But also the way I'm kind of looking at it is kind of what traveling with Tom Baker,
yes,
changes you into, because obviously she kind of starts out quite aristocratic.
Yes.
And I think that's, you look at the way the Time Lords have been written in the few stories that we've seen them in by this point.
Yeah.
And she's quite in keeping with that.
Yeah.
I think.
It's very cold, very rigid, very looks down her nose.
Yeah. And what she then kind of through traveling with the Doctor and having her kind of eyes open, because there's that great line the Doctor has where it's like, if you call that being nearly killed, then you need to get out more or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's that idea. It's that, by seeing the universe much like the first Doctor did, I guess, she becomes this kind of more, like say, more bohemian, more open, more free, I guess.
Yeah. Very open to the possibilities, very
yeah.
Which I guess even the way that Romana 2 comes about, it's not a regeneration in any of the ways that we've seen before. It's like
it's a costume change, essentially, isn't it?
Yeah. Tries on a couple of different bodies, so you don't know how many regenerations that's burned. Maybe in the Timeless Children, it wasn't even a problem. We've got hung up that we're a bunch of children, are really abused there. When in actual fact, nah, not really. It's just it was like Tennant regrowing a hand. There was no problem. There was no problem because it was done. It was done within that first kind of 12 hours of the regeneration happens. There was no pain. There was no craziness. Nobody cared.
It's fine. You can experiment on children all you want.
The fact that we're on camera.
I love it. Sorry, can I just say I mean, we probably won't keep this in, but I laughed again when I was editing it in the last episode where you go, I can't believe everything comes back to that fucking two-parter.
Yeah.
It's great.
So sick of that thing being in my thinking. But yeah, so Mary Tamm, so I certainly liked her as part of this. I just kind of, but then immediately, I don't think she's given anything to do, really.
I think the first episode, it's enough to kind of have her and the Doctor kind of clash with each other in their kind of different approaches to things. They're kind of different outlooks. The Doctor kind of taking her through what it means to be a Doctor Who companion and go on an adventure.
Yeah, actually calling her an assistant in this.
Yes,
as well.
Yeah.
Or the Guardian, I guess, is saying.
Because the Guardian sets her up
as,
I've got your new assistant, But then, after that, she's just kind of following the Doctor and all the other characters around the place.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, there's not a lot for Tom Baker to do. So
No,
of
but
course,
what
there's not
he
going to be a lot to do for
gets,
Mary Tamm. You know.
yeah, there's because I've been watching a lot of Sergeant Bilko recently. Well, the Phil Silver Show, as it's
Oh,
more.
what a sentence! What a sentence! It's a sentence that's really quite fitting on this podcast.
And obviously, a lot of that, is kind of reflected in this. Like, it's that kind of same kind of con. Like, I love the Doctor. There's a really great Bilko episode where Doberman is on like leave, and he gets conned out of all this money
Yeah,
by these con artists in this bar.
yeah,
We like go, oh my god, I can't believe you're from this town. We're from that town. Like, oh, remember that? And they sort of get him up to the room and they play cards and steal all his money. And Bilko's just like outraged. So he goes into the bar and plays this schmuck and then like plays them plays them at their own game, gets Doberman's money back and more besides, and that's the end of the episode. And there's a bit of that where the Doctor and Romana are kind of just watching Garen talk to the Graph in Decay.
yeah.
And giving him this whole spiel about, the Scringe Stone and the mine and the
Stone, and stuff as the guard who just wanders in and does that, yeah.
And the Doctor and Romana kind of just turn up, and the Doctor's kind of delighted at this kind of, he knows exactly what's happening. I love that kind of line of just, are people still falling for that in this day and age? I like the idea of it's not something you see very often, if at all, after this, to be honest. I think this is maybe the only time. But I do like the idea of, because all this talk of the Doctor is this kind of like lonely god, or this kind of, like important figure in, the history of the time, yada, yada, yada. What I love is that he's just like somebody on the real hustle. He's just like, listen, I've been around the block a bit.
Yeah.
He's taking you for a fucking ride.
He's hung out in enough bars with enough ne'er-do-wells. He fucking knows some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, man. You're selling it to me. It makes me want to go back and watch the Ribos Operation.
I've got to say, I enjoyed it. Like I say, I don't want that to be Doctor Who every week.
Yeah.
But there is something quite refreshing and quite different about it. To the point that I think it's definitely its weakness is that the cliffhangers are just basically like, oh, the story has to stop now.
Yeah, the two cliffhangers, well, two of the three cliffhangers are the same.
Yeah.
The Graph Vindicate
makes a threatening
does some kind of,
and
with that weird mouth acting he's doing to stop spitting. Like there seems like there's the kind of the threat of like you can see like there's a and then it cuts to Tom Baker looking a bit kind of like, ooh.
Yeah, so well, yes, it was at the end of part 2 where like they're all about to get shot. And the last shot is just Tom Baker kind of just looking from person to person, just like, uh-oh.
Yeah, there's that.
See you next week.
Yeah, there's that. He's definitely like that. And there's definitely comedy. Like there's definitely, I mean, like there's the bit where they're in the it's episode 4 where is it? Like in the mausoleum beneath the castle, and Garen and Romana have like hidden on like in some kind of little alcove, and the Doctor joins them, so they're all basically lying on top of each other, and they're planning everything out with quite an earnestness.
Yeah.
They're all lying on top of each other, and then they do that bit going, you go that way and we'll go that way. What way? That way. All right, that's what I thought you said. And I was like, okay,
There's a lot of stuff in this where you are just like, this is all just being worked out in the rehearsal room.
Yeah.
Like all that, like say the stuff at the bit is at the beginning in part 3. Kind of ducks behind Garen, and Garen kneels down, and the Doctor kneels down, and they slap him with a glove, and all of that. I think Tom Baker and Ian Cuthbertson clearly absolutely loved working with each other.
This is where Tom Baker begins to push and see what he can get away with.
And the thing is, when it works, it really works.
Yeah.
and that's it. And I think Philip Hinchcliffe says an interesting thing in the Matthew Sweet interview, which I've always kind of thought is that, he kind of goes, yeah, I've heard Tom was really difficult after I left. He says, and I've never really spoken to him about it, and maybe I will the next time I see him. He says, but I do wonder if what it was is that when Robert Holmes and I left, he was the longest serving member of the team, and he felt this kind of proprietal feeling towards the series, and felt like it was his show and that it was his responsibility to kind of keep it ticking over and kind of keep this consistency. And I do think there's some truth in that. And I think that is why he there are stories of him being difficult to work with and abrasive. And, it's that's kind of that's the kind of thesis that Mark Gatiss puts across in An Adventure in Space and Time about William Hartnell, is that he started that show very William Russell leaves, Caroline Ford's left, Jacqueline Hill leaves, Verity Lambert leaves, and it's just him.
Yeah, but I mean, we could also be honest with ourselves and say,
of course, but
we can also be honest and say, like, if Tom Baker was caning it as much as we know that he was,
as much as we are right now,
then the guy's going to be an arsehole because he's in a constant state of being hungover. If you're drinking like 8 pints of wine with fucking Francis Bacon all a night in the centre of London and then not even going home, just showing up to the rehearsal rooms and sleeping on a mat in the corner until everyone shows up and you just get up and you're ready to go, that might be.
Yeah, that might not be the most easy person to work with.
Yeah. But I don't know. It is actually, like, I had this in my head, actually, talking about humor. I had this in my head that this was when Douglas Adams was script editor, but it wasn't. It's the next series. He does. He
writes The Pirate Planet, which is the very next story, which actually I think would have also been quite a good pairing up with Time Heist.
But I guess it's because, jumping ahead, I always had in my head that I really liked the Ribos Operation because I actually really liked that very first scene, or like basically the Key to Time kind of starter scene, which I thought was written by Douglas Adams. It's not. It's Graham Williams and Anthony Reid, because it's the stuff that sets up the series. So it wasn't Robert Holmes that wrote it, but that initial scene where the Doctor's called out of the TARDIS and meets the Guardian, I really like the line, if I don't do this, what will happen to me? And then the Guardian just goes, nothing, ever. Like that. I love that. But I also love, like, this is my favorite moment, the very first moment of this thing, where there's a blackout, malfunction in the TARDIS. Oh no, what could it be? Blazing organ music. Doors of the TARDIS fly over. Light floods in. This booming voice goes, "Doctor, I'd like to see you," or something like that.
Yeah.
Doctor. Tom Baker just pauses and just goes, "Yeah." It's just the best delivered line.
Yeah.
It's just like all of this pomposity, all of this kind of big showboating stuff, and the Doctor's like, "Yeah." That is great. I love that scene. And I love the humor, and I love just the fact that presumably the Guardian is appearing to the Doctor in the way that the Doctor would perceive that life form.
Yeah.
The idea of the higher being and the great power, what it breeds is indolence, and ignorance. And it's just a guy having a drink in a big wicker chair. And that's how it is. There's something very Doctor Who. There's something very Fourth Doctor about that scene, and I just love that. I was really keen to revisit that, and I just kind of, I don't know, I just felt like the rest of the story didn't match up.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that is fair. I mean, it is kind of like nothing you've ever seen before, and it also, right up until, I mean, it's basically Tom Baker meeting God. Essentially, is what it is, and that's a hell of a pitch.
Yeah,
a hell of a pitch,
Yeah. And God can't be bothered doing the thing that he needs
Yeah.
something to do himself. So he's I mean, if you look at it, why doesn't the White Guardian just? Why is the thing
Just
split
pluck all the
across?
parts from there, yeah.
Yeah. Why doesn't he just do it himself? Why is any of this is just immediately so convoluted?
Yeah.
Why does he? Because presumably the White Guardian has some sort of guidance over the TARDIS to land it in a specific place in a specific time for the best chances of accessing that element of the key to time. And in every adventure, there's a fucking fight for the thing. You know, like they're put down when somebody else wants that thing. So what's the angle there? What does the Guardian actually want? I don't think anything. I think he just wants entertainment and he's using the Doctor. I don't think it's actually because he needs the key to time at all. You know.
Yeah. This would be the point where we would go on and watch the rest of the Key to Time and find out for ourselves. But that's not how we do this podcast.
But we won't. Like, as a fan of drama, as a fan of good scripting, I can see why people like, something's dropped. Got my old green screen's dropped. I can see why people like the character of Binro.
I do.
And I do want to like him. But every time I just saw the performance, all I could think of was, you know, Jim Trott from The Vicar of Dibley. I was like, that's,
right, yeah.
That's, Timothy Bateson is Binro? Yeah, I don't. You know, like there's a lot to like. There's definitely, and you're convincing me. Like you've made me go. Yeah. Just when I was looking at it, it just didn't grab me. I don't know, which is weird. I don't think that's ever happened before. I think I've gotten something out of every Doctor Who story that we've done.
Well, you just got nothing from this.
Yeah, and this is episode 88, so we've done like a good amount of Doctor Who. I just don't think I got anything out of it. It's weird that you said it's unlike anything we've seen up to that point, but I feel like this is what Robert Holmes is after this point.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair, yeah.
It's like if he's not paired with a script editor who knows what kind of leash to let him out on, he'll write whatever he wants, and he'll usually not write Doctor Who. Which is kind of weird. I mean, it is kind of weird because I really like his contributions to the Trial of a Time Lord. But,
yeah, I quite like them as well. Although I was just thinking there that the Mysterious Planet shares a lot in common with this. Mm-hmm. It does feel like a little bit of a remake.
Yeah, well,
Operation.
You know, there's that quote that Barry Letts has about when Terry Nation pitched a Dalek story that would eventually become Genesis of the Dalek, but was for that season 12. It was just, I think the original thing was just some sort of Dalek, whatever. And Letts said, "Look, Terry, you've already pitched us this. Like, we've done this story like 5 or 6 times in Doctor Who."
Yeah.
It feels like this is the first time you get the kind of 80s Robert Holmes. It's whatever tub he wants to thump at the time. It's done. I don't want to take him down. It's done very deftly. It's done with great characterization. It's done with great lines and great humor. But I think you get the same sort of thing from then on, and maybe that's where I didn't like Ribos Operation. Having seen Trial of a Time Lord pretty recently, we've recently done obviously the 2 Doctors and the Caves of Androzani. Because I'll tell you what, because it also has the same effect with K9 as well. This is early on in K9 being part of Doctor Who, but by this point, I feel like I've worked out what K9's role is. This seems like another very recent watch of a K9 story where he is talked to, like he's part of the comedy family feel at the start in the TARDIS of a story. And then they leave the TARDIS and go on the adventure, and then when they need a gun,
Yeah.
there's like a dog whistle or some way of communicating, and he comes out and he's a gun, and that feels like what K9 does. So it's weird. It's weird seeing this, and in chopping about in Classic Who, we've got essentially where this all starts, but seeing it as something that we've seen after a lot of stuff that comes later, you kind of go, yeah, this is a bit tired now.
Yeah.
Wow, really buzzkill. Really killed the buzz there, didn't I?
Yeah, K9 is just a big family-friendly gun.
Yeah,
you're right. I mean, that's
family-friendly gun.
That is his purpose, and a bit of exposition every now and again as well.
Yes, yeah. Who was your favorite performance? So did you say your favorite scene? Sorry,
my favorite scene actually. Well, there's a couple. I mean, the opening, which we've discussed, and the opening to part 3, I just think is just a fun bit of business. But I really like the scene, where you were right, Binro. There's just something quite affecting about that, and just really in this story that is about so many things, and I don't think it necessarily deals with all of those themes that Holmes is juggling in a particularly satisfying way. I do certainly think that scene is probably the closest it kind of comes to doing that. I think it's really good. So yeah, I would say that for me is my favorite scene.
Who's your favorite performance?
Ian Cuthbertson. I think he's really good.
Mm-hmm.
He is the kind of quintessential Robert Holmes character, and he seems to be having an absolute ball playing that character, and it's quite infectious.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that as well. I mean, I don't think anyone's particularly badly cast in this.
No.
Which is like I do kind of feel bad that I didn't get a lot from it, because there's a lot to get out of this. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people in listener correspondence said that it was something they didn't appreciate when they were mentally immature, but now that they were adults, they really got something from it. And maybe I'm just mentally immature. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe like when I'm 80, I'm going to be like, Ribos Operation, bequeathing to my relatives my copy of the Ribos Operation, whatever that looks like then,
Yeah, whatever fucking generation copy that is,
yeah, it'll still be the old shitey VHS.
Whatever mastering it is. Yeah.
So that was it. That was our hooks and crooks
Indeed
special.
Although actually, that's one of my other favourite lines in the Ribos Operation is, Romana, you can't be a good crook with a dishonest face, can you? It's fucking great.
Yeah, that is funny. That's good. So yeah, okay. Well, to everybody, as always, thank you for being part of that. But until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you for, if this is how you're doing it, watching us. And we'll see you next time on the Time Lash. I've been Ben.
I've been Mark. And he's been Kev. Someone as well synthesizer.